Addison. Addison completely missed the most obvious warning sign right in front of her face. Addison encounters a glass box trap while searching for nerve gas antidote. The box is clearly labeled with clues about the proper approach. Instructions specify to use just one hand for safe retrieval. This setup is designed to test whether she can follow simple directions under pressure. This is essentially an intelligence test disguised as a trap. The glass box contains visible blades on the interior sides. The clue clearly states to use only one hand for safe extraction. Addison reads the clue, but lets desperation override logic. She inserts both hands simultaneously through the openings. The blades slice into both hands, trapping her in an agonizing position. This demonstrates how panic makes people skip basic reading comprehension. At least she had something to read. This next guy's curiosity killed way more than the cat. Gus. This guy's curiosity literally killed the cat, and I mean that in the most literal way possible. Gus grows impatient and paranoid as group tension escalates. Team members actively warn him not to investigate the door. Multiple people tell him it's dangerous to look through the peephole. He has clear verbal warnings from people who understand the stakes. But curiosity overrides group wisdom and basic survival instincts. Fellow prisoners explicitly warn against checking the peephole. Gus ignores repeated warnings from multiple sources. He positions his eye directly against the peephole opening. A booby trap gun positioned on the opposite side fires immediately. He dies instantly from a point-blank gunshot to the head. This shows how quick thinking and healthy skepticism save lives in Jigsaw's world. But at least Gus was trying to help the group. This next move was pure selfish stupidity. Adam. This move was so dumb, it wasted their best chance at survival and pretty much sealed both their fates. Adam and Dr. Gordon work together to understand their bathroom prison. They spot Jigsaw's corpse holding what appears to be a gun. Adam sees this as their potential salvation from the deadly game. He makes a split-second decision to grab the weapon without any assessment. This represents the classic act first, think later mentality under extreme stress. The gun is clearly visible in Jigsaw's hand in the bathroom center. Adam lunges desperately for the weapon without checking for traps. A concealed electrical wire delivers a powerful shock when he makes contact. The electric shock incapacitates him and eliminates their potential advantage. This wasted opportunity forces them back to Jigsaw's intended puzzle solution. Impulsive actions destroy strategic thinking when lives are at stake. Individual stupidity is bad enough, but wait until you see what happens when an entire group refuses to think straight. Bad team. The house inmates receive repeated messages from Jigsaw, emphasizing teamwork. Instructions consistently stress that cooperation is the key to survival. The group has multiple opportunities to share information and resources. Every Jigsaw message reinforces the same theme: work together or die alone. They have all the guidance they need but choose to ignore it. Jigsaw's tapes repeatedly state work as a team. Instead of cooperating, the group dissolves into arguments and backstabbing. Members withhold crucial information that could save everyone. Paranoia and self-interest lead to a series of preventable deaths. They only discover the teamwork solution after most people are already dead. Survival instincts paradoxically overpower actual survival strategy. But those people were civilians in over their heads. This next guy was a trained officer who should have known better. Rig. This hero complex backfired in the most ironic way possible. Every person he tried to save died because of him. SWAT officer Daniel Rigg is obsessed with saving everyone he encounters. He receives explicit, repeated instructions to wait and not intervene. Warnings come from multiple sources who understand the stakes. Rigg believes his training and good intentions can override Jigsaw's rules. This is a classic hero complex meets systematic psychological manipulation. Clear instructions tell Rigg to wait and not try to intervene. He ignores warnings and races from trap to trap attempting rescues. Each intervention inadvertently triggers deadly contraptions. His actions ensure the deaths of nearly every person he intended to save. Good intentions become the mechanism of destruction. This proves that even good intentions become disastrous when patience is abandoned. At least Rigg was trying to save lives. This next guy's emotional baggage literally cost people theirs. Jeff's emotional baggage literally cost people their lives, and the worst part is he knew exactly what he needed to do. Jeff is placed in a series of moral trials requiring forgiveness decisions. Each trial involves people connected to his son's accidental death. The tests are designed to measure his ability to grant mercy under time pressure. Clear instructions indicate that quick forgiveness saves lives. His grief and anger become weapons used against innocent people. There are multiple trials with people involved in his son's death. Jeff wastes precious time confronting and berating each person. He spends crucial moments wrestling with his anger instead of acting decisively. His inability to forgive quickly results in torturous deaths. Emotional hesitation becomes the mechanism of murder. This shows how emotional hesitation has deadly consequences in Jigsaw's world. But Jeff's hesitation seems reasonable compared to this next person's calculated betrayal. Dina, her betrayal backfired so hard it became franchise legend, and the irony is absolutely perfect. Dina finds herself in a brutal public trap with two men fighting for her love. Both men genuinely care about her and want to save her life. She has the opportunity to encourage cooperation and teamwork. Instead, she chooses to manipulate both men against each other for personal advantage. The public trap forces two men to compete while saw blades approach. Dina convinces both men to turn on each other rather than work together. Her manipulation initially seems to work as they fight, but the men realize her betrayal and decide to team up against her instead. They allow her to be killed while they both survive. Self-interested betrayal creates cruel, ironic consequences. At least Dina made a calculated choice, USEA. This next guy just completely panicked. Paul's death proves that sometimes the answer is literally spelled out for you, and people still get it wrong. Paul previously survived one of Jigsaw's philosophical games. He should understand how Jigsaw's mind works and trust his instructions. He faces a new trial where the escape route is clearly marked and labeled. He has the advantage of experience that should guide better decision-making. Clear signage provides unambiguous direction for survival. The escape route is clearly marked with proper signage. Paul ignores warnings and chooses the path labeled "No Exit." The sign literally tells him this path leads to death. Panic and pain override his previous learning experience. The "no exit" path predictably leads to a deadlier trap. This shows how panic makes people ignore even the most obvious clues. It proves that previous experience means nothing without clear thinking. It demonstrates that impatience creates avoidable self-destruction. But Paul was at least alone with his bad choice. This next person's murder affected everyone. Amanda kills Lynn. This murder triggered a chain reaction that destroyed everything Jigsaw built, and it was completely unnecessary. Amanda is positioned as Jigsaw's protege and successor. She's tasked with overseeing Lynn's surgery to keep Jigsaw alive. She has clear instructions about her role and responsibilities. She's supposed to follow Jigsaw's moral code, cherish your life, but her jealousy and insecurity override her training and purpose. Amanda murders Lynn without waiting to learn the test outcome. The killing is driven by jealousy, insecurity, and distrust of Lynn's motives. This violates the fundamental Jigsaw principle about cherishing life. The murder triggers a disastrous chain of deaths, including Amanda's own. This action reverberates through the remaining sequel storylines. Impulsive murder violates the core philosophy Amanda claimed to follow. Amanda thought she understood Jigsaw's rules. FBI. This FBI agent thought he was smarter than them. Strom ignores the tape. This FBI agent's pride literally crushed him to death. DZ1. And the warning was sitting right there the whole time. FBI agent Strom reaches the climax of his pursuit of the new Jigsaw killer. He discovers a tape recording left specifically for his own good. He's seen enough Jigsaw games to know tapes contain crucial survival information, but his professional pride and distrust override established patterns. He believes he's smarter than Jigsaw's psychological manipulation. The tape is explicitly left for Strom's safety and survival. Strom assumes the tape is a trap meant for his adversary, not a genuine warning. He ignores Jigsaw's established precedent of providing survival clues. He walks directly into a literal death trap with closing walls. He gets crushed alive while the tape's advice could have saved him. Arrogance clouds judgment when ignoring even obvious clues. Individual arrogance is deadly, but group stupidity can be even worse. Victims don't work together. They literally could have all survived if they just talked to each other for 5 minutes. 5 people wake up chained to an interconnected trap system. Instructions cryptically but clearly state they all need to be saved. The trap design requires teamwork and communication for success. Each person has a piece of the puzzle that helps everyone survive. The solution becomes obvious only when cooperation replaces competition. Clear instructions indicate group survival is possible. Each member acts selfishly, plotting against others for personal safety. Their refusal to collaborate leads to multiple pointless deaths. Only the final survivors realize that teamwork was always the solution. The games could have been beaten easily with basic communication. Stubbornness and lack of communication create the greatest collective failure. But those people were panicking. This next guy made his choice while completely calm. Hoffman into glass coffin. The irony of this next one is absolutely perfect. HTMZ. He literally saved his enemy's life while killing himself. Detective Strom is obsessed with catching and exposing Hoffman. He finds a suspicious glass coffin in a trap room with a recorded warning. The tape recording warns him to "trust me and you will survive." His distrust of everything Jigsaw-related overrides survival instincts. He sees the coffin as a weapon to use against Hoffman rather than protection for himself. The glass coffin is present with a tape warning to trust and survive. Strom forcibly shoves Hoffman into the coffin despite warnings. The coffin immediately lowers safely as the room's walls begin closing. him. The walls crush Strom to death, while Hoffman survives in protection. His refusal to trust the explicit clue leads to ironic role reversal. Refusing to trust clear survival clues leads to ironic brutal death. At least Strom's mistake helped catch a killer. This next fraud got exactly what he deserved. Bobby Dagan lies. This fraud got exactly what he deserved in the worst possible way, and his wife paid the ultimate price. Bobby Dagan creates a fake account of surviving a jigsaw trap. He uses this fabricated story to build fame, fortune, and a survivor support group. He becomes a celebrity speaker and author based on complete lies. He attracts faux survivors and media attention with fraudulent testimony. He builds his entire career and identity on deception about trauma. He creates a detailed false narrative about trap survival. A real copycat jigsaw killer discovers the fraud and targets Bobby. He's forced through actual deadly traps designed to punish his dishonesty. He fails the final test because he lacks genuine survival experience. His wife dies in front of him as a consequence of his deception. His thirst for celebrity and fortune becomes a cautionary tale about hubris. Bobby's lies hurt his family, NET1, but this next guy's stubbornness destroyed everyone he loved. Ignoring forgiveness message. This guy's stubbornness cost him literally everything that mattered, including his wife's life. Jeff is placed in elaborate moral trials, testing his capacity for forgiveness. Each trap involves people connected to his son's accidental death. Clear hints throughout suggest that mercy and forgiveness save lives. He has multiple opportunities to choose compassion over revenge. His grief has transformed into anger that blinds him to moral lessons. The trials challenge Jeff to forgive the judge, drunk driver, and witnesses. He fails to show mercy despite clear moral guidance from the traps. He lets anger and desire for vengeance dictate every decision. Multiple deaths result from his inability to forgive and move forward. His wife Lynn dies as a direct consequence of his moral failures. Emotional vengeance proves as lethal as any mechanical trap. Jeff had time to think about his choices. This next guy had to act fast and chose wrong. Officer rushes into trap. Sometimes trying to help makes everything infinitely worse, and this is the perfect example. A police officer encounters the vicious scalper trap with an active victim. Natural heroic instincts drive him to attempt immediate rescue. He sees a person in distress and feels a moral obligation to intervene. He lacks understanding of trap mechanics and Jigsaw's psychological games. Good intentions and police training combine into deadly overconfidence. The officer finds the scalper trap in progress. He acts impulsively without assessing the trap mechanism or waiting for backup. His intervention triggers additional mechanisms that escalate the situation. The rescue attempt leads to further harm rather than salvation. Haste and lack of forethought doom both officer and victim. This proves that haste and lack of forethought can doom even well-intentioned people. That officer at least tried to save someone else. His next decision was pure self-preservation gone wrong. Dr. Gordon saws off his foot. This iconic moment was actually completely unnecessary, and the reveals that came later prove it. Dr. Lawrence Gordon faces a ticking clock with his family held hostage. He believes sawing off his foot is the only way to escape his shackles and save his family. He makes a desperate decision under extreme time pressure and emotional duress. This iconic scene represents the ultimate sacrifice for family survival. The decision is made without full information about available alternatives. He uses a hacksaw to cut through his foot at the ankle to escape the bathroom. Extreme self-mutilation is driven by the belief that his family will die otherwise. Later franchise reveals suggest other solutions might have existed. Panic and time pressure eliminate consideration of alternatives. This drastic measure is taken without complete understanding of the situation. This shows how panic clouds judgment and leads to extreme unnecessary actions. Gordon made his choice under extreme pressure, NCA, but this next mistake happened at the very beginning. Adam fails to find key. One tiny mistake at the very beginning doomed this guy from the start, and it was completely avoidable. Adam wakes up submerged in bathtub water in an unfamiliar bathroom. Stress, confusion, and disorientation affect his observation skills. The key to his ankle chain is present but not immediately obvious. Panic response overrides careful systematic searching. This single moment of carelessness determines his entire fate. The key to his ankle chain is accidentally lost down the bathtub drain during awakening. Confusion and panic during the initial moments prevent proper assessment. This small oversight creates irreversible consequences for the entire ordeal. The lost key forces Adam into Jigsaw's intended psychological game. This trivial mistake becomes the foundation for all subsequent suffering. This shows how trivial oversights carry irreversible consequences in Jigsaw games. Adam's mistake was an accident, lunks, but this next guy chose to trust the wrong person. Zepp trusts Jigsaw. This guy trusted the wrong person and paid the ultimate price, even though the red flags were everywhere. Zepp Hindle is manipulated into believing he needs to follow Jigsaw's orders. He's convinced that compliance will cure him of his condition. He sees Jigsaw as a savior rather than a manipulator and torturer. He believes promises despite obvious moral contradictions. Blind faith in a clear villain overrides basic moral judgment. He's manipulated into participating in crimes against the Gordon family. He follows murderous orders, believing he'll be cured in return. He trusts Jigsaw's promises despite the obvious evil nature of the requests. He gets betrayed and executed once his role is completed. Misplaced trust in a villain leads to predictable abandonment. This shows how blind trust in clear villains leads to predictable punishment. Zepp was manipulated by a master, ADM, but these next cops should have known better. Ignoring autopsy clues. The cops literally had all the answers sitting right there and threw them away. Talk about snatching defeat from victory. Law enforcement celebrates apparent victory after Jigsaw's death. The autopsy and investigation of his body contains hidden clues and critical information. Evidence is present that could prevent the next wave of games and deaths. Overconfidence after winning creates careless evidence handling. The assumption that Jigsaw's death ends the threat leads to relaxed vigilance. Jigsaw's body contains planted clues, hidden information, and tape recordings. Critical twists and revelations are overlooked during post-mortem examination. Careless investigation allows the next set of deadly games to launch unopposed. Hidden evidence could have exposed the continuing conspiracy and threats. Overconfident authorities miss obvious signs of ongoing danger. This shows how overconfidence after victory can be as damning as in-game mistakes. Those cops at least had an excuse. They thought the threat was over. This next guy had no excuse at all. Copycat fails to innovate. This wannabe Jigsaw was missing the most important ingredient, and it made him completely predictable. A new antagonist attempts to continue John Kramer's legacy through imitation. He copies Jigsaw's methods without understanding the underlying philosophy. He lacks originality, creativity, and the twisted moral framework of the original. He tries to replicate success through surface-level copying. He's missing the psychological depth that made Jigsaw effective. He creates traps that copy Jigsaw's style but lack innovation. The lessons and moral tests lack nuance and philosophical depth. Predictable methods make the copycat easier to catch and stop. He lacks understanding of why the original methods were psychologically effective. Surface imitation without core understanding leads to downfall. This shows how copying without understanding core principles leads to failure. But even a failed copycat is nothing compared to the decision that started this whole nightmare. And that brings us to the #1 dumbest decision that created every single death in this franchise: John Kramer's transformation. And the #1 dumbest decision that started this entire nightmare: the choice that created every single death we've talked about. John Kramer receives a cancer diagnosis and faces his own mortality. He makes a suicide attempt that fails, giving him a new perspective on life. Instead of seeking therapy, support, or healthy coping mechanisms, he chooses something else entirely. He chooses to transform his personal suffering into systematic torture of others. This is the origin decision that creates the entire franchise mythology and death count. His failed suicide attempt becomes a transformative experience for Kramer. He decides that his near-death experience gives him authority to test others. He creates a systematic torture program disguised as moral philosophy. He takes his personal suffering and amplifies it into widespread cruelty. This single decision fuels every subsequent disaster in the Saw universe. This is the most catastrophic and influential decision in the entire franchise. If you want to see the top 12 dumbest decisions in Stranger Things, click the video on the screen.